Lowe again. With us today is an actor and playwright who is a successful practitioner in the art of high camp. Currently to be seen in Die, Mommie, Die at the Coast Playhouse, he is an artist in the tradition of Charles Ludlam and Charles Pearce. Please join us in welcoming yet another Charles, Charles Busch. And here's your man of the half hour, Skip E Lowe.
Do you know, once in a while, here in Hollywood, we do get New York. They bring New York to us. And boy, am I thrilled today. We have a New Yorker, and I love him. He's international. Charles Busch, how are you?
I'm thrilled to be here at long last.
Oh, boy, you brought New York to Hollywood here at the Coast Theater. That wonderful play. And tell me about it. You wrote it? You directed it?
No. I wrote it. I write them and I act them, but I'm no director.
Okay.
So what I'm thrilled is that I've worked with such close collaboration for so many years with wonderful director Kenneth Elliott, and he directed really all my plays in New York, and he's moved out here, and so we were just so eager to work together that I came out here and we did this play just for Los Angeles.
Mommie, Die, Mommie, what's all that about? Tell me, is that, that's very much Joan Crawford or whatever?
Well, what it was it's actually a rather high tone. It's it's the story of Clytemnestra and Electra, but I decided to update it a bit and set it in 1967 because the dresses were better. And it's so when you update it, it becomes sort of like a Joan Crawford, Bette Davis horror film in the style of Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte or Dead Ringer.
I'm reading the reviews. Los Angeles Times. Oh, they all say Charles Busch. My God, you're doing so well at the Coast Theater.
They've been very, very kind to me, and we're selling out. I'm so
I like
thrilled.
that word. They've been very kind to you.
Very kind. Well, you know, the thing is, my expectations were rather low in a way. You know, it's not like I was hoping that this would be something that we would, you know, then move to Broadway or something. I just wanted to do a play out here in L.A. and sort of summer stock in a way, and just have fun and work with Ken again, and.
How long have you known Ken?
I just want a little success, and no humiliation. Just no humiliation.
But it's not. It's a big success here. You're packing him in that small little theater.
A little adorable little theater, right? And it's just, they have this marvelous marquee right on Santa Monica Boulevard that everybody can see.
Yes, when they're driving by or walking by.
Right.
That's West Hollywood for you. Tell me, Charles Busch, grew up where?
In New York City. I am a New Yorker. I can't escape, really. It's nice to be out here for a couple of months just to get away.
But you went to Northwest. Tell me about Northwest. Yeah, Northwestern, great dramatic school.
Yeah, I went
Charlton
there.
Heston went there.
And Anne Margaret and all sorts of people.
Yeah, tell me about Charles Busch at Northwest.
Well,
you
I
studied
did do
writing,
very well.
Well, you studied acting, writing.
I was a theater major, and actually that's where I met Ken Elliott. We were
together in a set.
Yeah.
So you've known him a long time.
Long time. Don't ask me how long. A long time.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's we started working together. Then when we both moved to New York after graduation.
Tell me about your first play, Outtakes of a B movie. What's that all about?
That was a play that was never actually produced. Just when I got to Northwestern, I was determined that I just always wanted to act all my life, and I thought when I got to Northwestern that I'd be a real bigwig in this theater department, and I learned very quickly that the theater department of a big school is really a microcosm of show business.
Right.
And I just wasn't being cast at all, and I was just a little too weird and odd and.
Why do you think you were weird and odd?
I don't know. I thought I was perfectly
wonderful.
wonderful.
You're not very weird and odd now.
I guess I'm a little less odd than I was at the time. And so anyway, so I was very discouraged because I wasn't being cast. And fortunately, there was a liberal arts program at Northwestern, so I got a chance to take different writing and literature courses, and that kind of steered me into writing.
Charles, but you say you love show business. Who encouraged you? You were going to movies all the time? Because Bette Davis's, Joan Crawford's, that's really into your life a lot.
Yeah,
I see
I absorbed so much of that.
Yeah, you really did. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, yeah, I guess I was kind of a
You like the old movies?
peculiar little boy, and you know, there was when I was growing up, there were so many old movies on television. Of course, now there are, again, with Turner Classic Movies and all that, but you know, I used to watch the 4:30 movie every day and movie greats and all that, and so by the time I was maybe 11, I had seen all the great sort of women's pictures. And
at 11, were you doing Bette Davis?
I was doing Norma Shearer more than Bette Davis, who was always my particular favorite. Matter of fact, one time this childhood friend of mine showed up at one of my shows. I hadn't seen him in 25 years or so, and he said, "Oh, it's just perfect that you're doing this now, because I remember as a kid you pretending to be Norma Shearer's Marie Antoinette at our house." So it's inevitable.
So after you left college, what happened to Charles Busch? Went to New York?
Yeah,
you got in the theater there. There was a wonderful little theater, Joseph.
But I never worked there, though.
No, but your plays did, or something.
No, it's just that they at one point they can, I had long apprenticeship, and they almost did a play of mine, but no. Fortunately, what happened was I started being a solo performer, and I did a one-man show, and I was very industrious and booked myself all over the country and doing this show called Charles Busch Alone with a Cast of Thousands. And I did all these different little pieces, and so in a way, my career is almost an old-fashioned one, that I, in a sense, did vaudeville for 6 years by doing this act all over the country and performing in front of every kind of audience. And then finally, when Ken and I put on this little play, Vampire Lesbians of Sodom.
That was a big hit.
And we did it in this tiny East Village after-hours bar, art gallery, performance art space. And so after I'd been kicking around, though, for quite a while, and so by the time the New York Times actually first reviewed me, they were seeing a performer who'd actually paid their dues, and I'd been around for a while.
So you feel that you paid your dues, Charles?
I'm still paying them, Skip.
Yeah.
I'm still paying them. Don't we ever stop? I'm tired of paying my dues.
Has it been tough for you? Has it been tough for you? You're so young, though.
No, I've had a hard time.
If you could change one thing in Charles Busch's life, what would you have done? What would you do?
Do it differently?
Yeah, something a little different. If you want to change your life right now, because you're very young. You're talking like you're an old...
I'm older than you think.
No, go ahead.
Well, no, it's funny. When I hear people interviewed and they're asked, would you change anything, they say never. I think, oh, those big phonies. But now that you're asking me this for the first time, in a way, I guess I wouldn't. I had to do... I realized very early, I had a very pragmatic sense of showbiz early on, and maybe because I'd been going to Broadway shows as a kid all my life. Anyway, I had a pragmatic sense of it, and I just knew that I wouldn't have any career unless I somehow had to carve out a new one for myself, and one that really had no precedent. So I started writing material for myself, and I ended up performing in drag, which was not what I thought it would be, but I became a leading lady.
You prefer the trousers, right, Charles?
I prefer the dresses.
Trousers, or the dresses. I don't know. Do you prefer
I've only played one part in pants.
Really?
I've only always the leading lady.
Wouldn't you like to play the trousers as Charles?
Not really. I did it once. We did a play called You Should Be So Lucky, and I was pretty well received in that, but I found that there were other people who could play that part just as well.
I asked Jim Bailey the same question.
And what do you say?
And he said no. He's been doing his character. He is an illusionist. Jim
brilliant.
He
Brilliant
is.
one.
Jim Bailey is an illusionist. He does that particular character. You do many characters. You do
well, I don't really do impersonations as much as I play a character, but I like to do.
But you insert the
yes, I like doing
little
sort of nuances, or I'd like to evoke every once in a while a flash of Bette Davis or
I like the
Susan
way you
Hayward
moved on that stage.
Like
the movement on that stage.
But I don't really I'm not out there just doing what Charles Pierce would do to a famous lady.
Yes.
I play my fictional character, and then every once in a while I just sort of evoke a little bit just to punctuate it.
So how are the audiences here in LA accepting the show right now?
Well, it's funny, I've always enjoyed performing here, and I've found actually that the audiences in LA, in some ways, even are more hip to the movie parody than New York sometimes.
Really?
Maybe, well, first of all, everybody from LA is from New York.
From New York, that's right.
And so many people are involved in the
theater is much better here now than it was before 20 years ago.
There's a lot of theater going on here.
Yes, thank God to people like you.
So I was glad to do the play here.
Bringing plays here and right. What do you have coming up now? New play?
Very exciting. Well, two things. it's really kind of could be a really good year for me. Well, for one thing was that I just finished last week filming a movie version of one of my plays, Psycho Beach Party, and it's all in the can, as they say, or wrapped up and wrapped. And yeah, so that'll be out like next August, a year from now.
Who's in this?
Thomas Gibson, who's on that TV show Dharma and Greg. He's a wonderful actor, and all these interesting young TV actors. This fellow Nicholas Brendan, who's one of the leads on Buffy the Vampire Killer, and a wonderful actress, Beth Broderick. And we've got a great cast. So we just finished that. So that was thrilling, because that's the first movie of one of my plays. And then the other thing I'm doing in the winter, I have a new play that Linda Lavin is going to star in New York.
She's
I'm
good.
so excited about that. I kind of wrote the role for her. Yeah.
You enjoy writing?
Yes, I really do. I started writing purely just
For others, I mean, for others.
Well, it's a new thing, because as I said, I started writing just to provide myself with employment. But then as you know, after all these years, I learned so much, and now I have kind of a writing career in itself, and I really do enjoy that.
Why do you think The Vampire and the Lesbians is such a big smash, that show? Why do you think?
Well, I think at the time, in 1984, when we first did it, it was kind of came at a certain perfect time. Well, for one thing, when we first did it in East Village, the East Village was in all the news that summer. Madonna had just sort of emerged, and Keith Haring, the artist, and the performance art scene in the East Village was particularly written about in People magazine, and we were kind of there at the right time. And I also think it was at the height of the AIDS crisis, and I think that there was kind of people, particularly gay people, then really wanted to kind of lose themselves in a wacky, campy comedy. So I was glad to provide them with a little levity.
What makes life important for Charles Busch?
Well, I think it's important to, I find it, well, you know, my creative life is my, I guess my vocation and my avocation, so I just enjoy so much challenging myself to try to
You're spiritual.
learn new things. I wouldn't say that unless, I guess creativity is my god, so I guess
we're in July right now, Charles. We're in
spiritual.
California. What is your favorite month of your year? Do you have a favorite month?
I like spring.
I do too.
Yeah.
Why do you like the spring so much, do you think?
You've
been in love? Have you been in love, Charles?
Yes.
You have someone? Yes, really? Good, good.
For many years.
You have, huh?
Yes.
What has been the hardest for Charles Busch?
The hardest?
Yeah.
Well, not being confused with Charles Ludlam.
No.
That happens to me so often. And you know, matter of fact, recently there was a revival of his play Irma Vep in New York, and it was a big hit. And so many people, I guess Charles, and they congratulated me on this play, and so I hadn't had a hit in a while, so I started saying thank you. And I get confused with Charles Pierce too at times. Matter of fact, I did a stage reading this past year of Auntie Mame in New York, where I played Mame, and John Davidson was in it.
Oh, I love John.
And he said, when we met, though, he said, "Oh, it's so good to see you again, Charles. We had so much fun doing Love American Style." I thought, Love American Style, you know. And I said, well, thank you, you know, I enjoyed that too. And then later he said, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were Charles Pierce. And I said, well, you know, he was quite a bit older than me. And he said, well, when we did it, he was your age. So yeah, so it's hard for me sometimes getting confused with all the Charleses.
Is Charles Busch a happy person in general?
Yeah, I'm a rather simple person.
I like that. Simple.
I'm very. What you see is what you get.
I like that word, simple, because simplicity is the most important thing.
I'm not too. I also
no complications.
Well, let's put it this way. I sometimes have no sense of irony in that if you told me right this minute that the Martians had invaded the studio next door, I'd say, really? And I just kind of take kind of everything at face value.
I'm looking at you. I think you know who you really are.
I try.
And you like yourself, too, don't you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I think it's really important, particularly if you're in a creative field, that you have to know yourself. And I think it's a lifelong search toward knowing exactly who you are. And I'm still learning, but I've got kind of a good sense of it.
So the theater gives you a great joy?
Love it. I love to be on stage. And sometimes I've had to try to reclaim that joy, because it's easy to get so worked up about sort of the business of things, or critics, or various things that you can lose track of what's important, and only think about the show is to be done for the critics, or to make the money back.
Right.
And so I've had to at times just kind of shake myself and say, wait a minute, I'm doing this, what it's about is to give something to an audience, and that's really the main point.
Yeah.
And you can't lose it, and I have lost it at times, but in a way, even doing the show here this summer, it's part of kind of reclaiming that, just the simple joy of performing, and it's a wonderful thrill.
You're here at the Coast Theater now, and you're there 5 days a week, I think, isn't it, or something
Thursday
like that?
through Sundays.
Thursday through Sundays.
Through August.
You brought a clip. I want to see this wonderful clip.
Well, it's not from Die, Mommie, Die, unfortunately.
No, but it's something Japanese underneath. We have some. Tell me about it.
Well, we did Vampire Lesbians of Sodom for so many years. You know, it ran in New York for 5 years, although I only did it for 2. Otherwise, I really would have been fit for the loony bin. But then we even went to Tokyo and performed it there. And while we were in Tokyo, they filmed it for Japanese television. And so I have this wonderful tape, unfortunately, since the Japanese, there's subtitles on it, and also they didn't really understand what we were saying, so there's no laughter. But despite all that, I think you get a little gist of that show.
Let's see it, okay? Can we see it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look at your face in the glass. For 2,000 years, you've worn the same expression. Do you know what that is? You're smelling shit. You always look like you're smelling shit. Everywhere you go, you smell shit. Lady, that's your problem. My kind always smells the roses.
You don't smell too many roses in Siberia.
What are you flapping your gums about?
1952. You convinced me to take over your tour of I Remember Mama. When we got to the Soviet Union, you had me arrested as a CIA spy.
Never.
You did. While you were starting a new career in the movies, I was freezing my ass off in that gulag.
1964. I was top contender for the Oscar. Jimmy the Greek had me winning 10-1. Yet I lost it. Don't think I don't know. It was you who spread those filthy rumors that I was bopping Mahalia Jackson. Why won't you get off my back?
Honey, you got it all wrong. You're the one who's been persecuting me. You've been obsessed with me for 2,000 years.
Yes. I'm obsessed with you. You made me what I am. Do you think I can ever forgive you for turning me into this thing? There is no human feeling. This creature who thinks of nothing but her own survival, clawing and attacking anyone who poses a threat to me. Yes, I'm at the top of my profession, but I'm not so damn proud of it.
Excuse me. I got a floor to clean.
Last year, Lieb Ullmann and I toured Africa for UNICEF. While I was in the Congo one day, I left Lieb and visited a tribal witch doctor named Pooji Dung.
Pooji Dung!
I see the name is familiar. He comes from an ancient line of jungle sorcerers, Dr. Beza. He has taught me all I need to know to destroy you.
So what do you expect me to do? Scream! Run around in circles! Do it! Get out your voodoo dolls! This modern world stinks. Broadway's dead. My apartment's going co-op. You can't get a decent yolly. Go ahead, give me the jungle phase out. You'd be doing me a favor. But let me just say this. When I'm gone, then will you be happy?
Dome arigato.
It's so
You
funny.
speak
is that-
Japanese too?
No, but although, you know, when we did the show there in Japan, I learned a rather long curtain speech phonetically in Japanese, and it was so fascinating seeing this sort of curtain lift of people's eyes when I finally spoke their language, and I wished that, had I known that I would have kind of stuck in little phrases here and
Yeah.
there. But it's so funny about Vampire Lesbians of Sodom. It was such a kind of fluke success, and for so many years I used to be kind of embarrassed by it and think, oh, it's the worst thing I ever wrote, and you know, and just be very silly about it.
Today you're very proud
Well, I
of it.
started watching. I recently did a workshop at UCLA, and we showed clips and stuff, and
Yes.
and I showed this actual clip, and I thought it was kind of cute.
It
and
is.
no wonder people enjoyed it so much, and I should just stop being such a, you know, pain in the ass about it.
Totally nothingness, cuteness. That's what it's all fun. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah, I mean, it's
innocence. It's really fun.
There was an innocence to it. That
Yeah.
that was sort of the surprise, I think, that with this decadent title, that there was kind of a sweet innocence to the show.
Do you enjoy the theater or clubs better? What do you prefer?
Performing or attending?
Performing.
Oh, I prefer the theater.
Theater.
Yeah,
because you're more theater, would you say?
Yeah, I'm theater. I've done a nightclub act, but which is fun in itself. But when I prefer the theater because, you know, you can have a run and really, you know,
Right.
play it every night. And,
How do you relax, Charles? After a performance?
I must go out for dinner. I love going to nice restaurants with friends, and that's about my favorite thing to do.
I think all actors do the same.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
It is?
It costs you a lot of money when you do a play. Go out every night.
Do you go out every night, Charles?
I try to, when I'm doing a show. I find it hard just to go back
When Charles,
to my
when
little
Charles
room, yeah.
Busch is not doing a show and you're in New York,
Yeah.
what do you do? What's your...
I'm the most sedentary, lethargic person. It's really awful. No, I just I watch a lot of TV.
you like the old movies, though.
Love
do you?
old movies, and now with Turner Classic Movies, it's like a drug.
It seems that you get your ideas from the old movies.
Yeah,
like
what are-
King's Row, like my favorite. That's my favorite film.
You love King's Row?
That's my favorite.
That's
Betty
wonderful.
Fields.
Love
Betty
Betty Fields in
Fields
that.
is great in that.
Wonderful.
And Ann Sheridan and Ronald Reagan, our ex-president. He's
Yeah, it's a
there
lovely film.
with and found his no legs. The way he screamed in that movie, and she was downstairs when he discovered. What a scene!
Wonderful. Yes, I love Norma Shearer, and I love Vivian Leigh, and some Waterloo Bridge is one of my favorites.
What do you think about the young kids? Do you think they like these old movies? They're
Well, you know, there was a middle period where, you know, when I was growing up, of course, we had all these old movies on TV. Then there was, during the 70s,
Right.
there was like no movies on TV. And now we have all these cable stations, so I'm hoping that the young kids now can start knowing the movies like we do.
Tell me about the movie Mommy Die, Mommie. Who's in the film? In the play.
We have a wonderful cast. Greg Malavy, who I guess people know best from Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman plays my husband, and who I murder in a rather grotesque fashion. And we have wonderful actor Mark Capri, who's worked for many years in England, and he's a marvelous actor. And an actress, Wendy Worthington, who's kind of a semi-regular on Ally McBeal. And a wonderful young actor, Carl Andrus, who I brought with me from New York. And a young actress, Dory Barton, who's really terrific. Yeah.
It's a good cast.
It's a good cast, very strong cast. I'm thrilled with the production. And what's been very touching, too, is that all of our old designers from New York who did Vampire Lesbians and Psycho Beach Party, they all flew out here, really at their own expense.
The wardrobe is great
to
in
do
the
the
show.
play.
The set's great. The wardrobe's good. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's a lush play for that little theater.
It is a lush play.
Yeah.
I've seen some good theater in that, real good theater in that playhouse.
Yes, I've seen some of the posters for
Coast.
the past productions there with wonderful
Real
people.
good. Yes, there are. Charles Busch, you're going to be leaving here and you're going where after with this play?
I go back home. But now
You're not
just
taking to
play-
San Francisco?
No.
Really? Why?
I just wanted to do it here.
Really?
Just, you know, I mean, I suppose if
But you're
somebody
such a
asked
big
me,
success here in L.A. with it. Don't you think it'd be bigger than ever in
you never
San
know
Francisco?
about San Francisco. I tell you, I'm always surprised when so many shows that are kind of campy fun
Campy
shows
things, right.
go to San Francisco. They don't do well. I think maybe because San Francisco does so many of those shows so well themselves that maybe they don't need us interlopers.
Oh, you mean the blank, what's that play's been running there for so many years?
They have their own tradition.
Blank, yeah, they do, don't they?
Yes, a good one too.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite movie right now running?
That's in the movies at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, Charles.
You know, I went to see that movie Arlington Road with Tim Robbins and Jeff Bridges.
Yes.
It's a thriller. It's awfully good. Really scared me.
Yeah. But you scared me in the theater. I mean, this play you're doing, I mean, that you wrote, you're killing everyone in the play.
Right and
Tell me
left.
more about this play. I want to get...
Well, you know, kind of what I like to do, I like to have my cake and eat it, too. I like to both spoof the movie genre, but I also like it to, in some ways, succeed as the kind of movie itself.
Right.
So this is a spoof of thrillers. And so we have all sorts of rather grotesque murders take place on stage. So I like to think that there's maybe a little bit of actual suspense as well as us making fun of it.
It is. It's the audience loves it, though.
And it sort of evokes all sorts of movies. We have a little bit of everything from Dead Ringer and Hush Hush Charlotte to a little bit of the Chekhov's The Seagull. It's kind of
you seem
mishmash.
hard on yourself. Are you hard on yourself sometimes with certain things that...
I'm kind of a tough critic on myself.
Are you?
Yeah, but when I do well, I first want to pat myself on the back. I'll admit it. Yeah.
It's a joy for you to have talking to you today.
It's been so much fun. You're such a legend here. And
A legend.
Thrilled
No,
to
legend.
meet you and be on your show.
You're very, very sweet. You know, it's been difficult for you and for everybody as an actor working in dresses. Do you think it's been difficult?
Well,
To let the straights of America to accept certain people like Jim Bailey, like Charles Pierce's, like Charles Busch's, to really accept, but, you know, to come to you, straights, really, they're coming to you. They're really coming.
Well, see, the thing is, I do think that the worst battles were fought by people before me. I think Charles Pierce was such a brilliant
He
performer.
was a female impersonator.
And he had
But you don't consider yourself a female impersonator, Charles, do you?
Well, I consider myself, you know, an actor who
An
performs
actor.
female roles. But
Right.
if you want to call me that, you can call me that. I won't.
But Jim Bailey gets very upset if you call him that.
Yeah,
he
what does he
wants
call
to
himself
be
a-
called an illusionist. He is an actor illusionist, and you are too. You're an actor who wears women's clothes and for a character.
Yeah.
See, Charles, when I think of Charles, but Charles Pierce is not. Charles
was an
Pierce
impressionist.
was an impersonator.
Yeah.
Charles Pierce was a female impersonator.
And a wonderful comedian
Oh,
and personality. And so anyway, the people before me, Charles Ludlam and Charles Pierce,
Right.
and they really had a harder time, I think, being accepted by both critics and, let's say, mainstream than I've had. So
Would you say
I'm
you have to
grateful.
have a good sense of humor to be what you are doing?
I think in life you have to have a good sense of
true,
humor.
true,
And a
but-
way of humor about yourself. I find
Not take it serious.
Well, to take bad experiences and turn them into anecdote very quickly, so you can.
Is that what Charles Busch does?
Yeah, very quickly.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, I enjoyed today, and you are a delight. You're at the Coast Theater, and I'm definitely going to come and see you.
Okay.
You are just wonderful. And thank you for talking to me today. Okay?
Thanks for having me.
Who influenced you, anyway, to get in the business? Has anyone influenced you?
Well, my father was a frustrated opera singer and ended up having a
Yes.
record store in Yonkers. But he loved old movies so much, so I used to watch movies till 2 in the morning with my father when I was growing up. And he took me to the opera, to the old Met, when I was 8 years old. And that kind of changed my life forever. Just the whole sort of